welcome back to Rule of Thumb. Today I was doing a little experimenting in the kitchen and I wasn't actually going to film this, but then I thought I'm going to turn the camera on, bring you folks along, and we'll see how it turns out. So here's my idea. I wanted to make French onion soup. However, both Josh and I love French onion soup. Neither of us are fans of the actual onions in the soup. So, I thought, what can I do to get both French onion soup, not waste the onions, but still get the flavor, and get a good product on my shelf? So, here's my thought. I thought, what if I made French onion soup, got it to where the flavor was exactly what I wanted, and then I will strain the onions out of the soup and can the broth, so it'll be somewhere between a French onion soup and a French onion consomme, without doing all the work of a consomme, because if any of you have ever made a consomme, it's a whole process with cooling it, adding egg whites, heating it back up, skimming the egg whites, skimming the broth. It's kind of a tedious process. So this is going to be like a consomme, but not as clear as a consomme would be. So, it'll be like a French onion soup broth. I'm going to can that. The onions that I strained out of it, I'm then going to portion up, and I am going to vacuum seal them and put them in my freezer so that I have little packages of caramelized onions that I can use to add to sauces, stews, and the like when I need to use them for that. So I'm kind of thinking I'm going to get two uses out of this, kill two birds with one stone kind of thing, and we'll see how it works. So, what I'm doing right now is sauteing the onions down and caramelizing them. So I'm going to move the camera, I'm going to show you folks what I've been doing, because like I said, I just kind of decided after I started this that I'd bring you folks along. So I'm going to show you where I'm at in the process. Okay folks, welcome back. So what you can see here, and excuse my canner running in the background, this is butternut squash that I'm canning, which you folks will probably have already seen in another video by the time this comes out. So these are my onions. I sliced up 8 pounds of onions. When this pan started, it was overflowing. This is a big 12-inch skillet, okay? So this was mounded with onions. So what I did is I turned my pan on with a little bit of olive oil in the bottom. I have it on medium heat on mine, and I've just literally been stirring the onions as they've been cooking. About halfway through, once they wilted down completely, I added about 3 to 4 tablespoons of brown sugar and 2 heaping teaspoons of salt. And that's just to get the caramel going on these a little bit, add a little extra sweetness, and the salt helps draw out the rest of the water. So these have been cooking for probably about 45 minutes at this point, and I'm going to continue to let them go because I want them to be a little bit more caramelized than what they are now. But I thought I would bring you folks in, show you what I'm working with, and when they get to the point where I am ready to turn these into soup, I'll bring you folks back, tell you what we're going to do to make the soup, and then we'll move on from there. Okay folks, we're back. I just wanted to show you where I brought the onions to. So this is 8 pounds of onions caramelized down to what I'm going to guess is probably 6 or 8 cups. Probably 6. So that's where we're at. Nice caramely color. They're soft. They're ready for soup. So I'm going to go ahead and get these into a big stock pot. I will bring you folks back and show you some of the ingredients we're going to add and how we'll move forward from here. Okay folks, we're back. So I've got kind of a menagerie of ingredients here. So we're going to use some Worcestershire, however you want to say it. I've got some onion broth here that I canned a big batch the other day, and I had some that I didn't feel like making another, didn't want to run another canner load, and I knew I was going to make this, so I saved this aside. So I've got 16 cups here. I've got parsley. I've got this Mushroom and Company multi-purpose umami seasoning. This is from Trader Joe's. This isn't necessary, but I like this stuff, so I'm going to use some of this in the soup. And then I've got some roasted garlic, and then I'll use salt and pepper to taste. Oh, and Better Than Bouillon roasted beef base. So what I'm going for here is I'm looking to get 8 quarts. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4. I want to do about 8 quarts because I want to end up being able to can about 16 pints of soup. Because that's what I'm shooting for. So if I start out with 8 quarts, that should give me 16 pints, or roughly in that ballpark. So we're going to do 4 more here. Okay, folks, we're back. So I ended up going with 9 quarts just to allow for evaporation, as this is kind of cooking and simmering and so on and so forth. So I figured I'd air a little bit more, and if I have some left over, we'll just have it for dinner or whatever. So I'm going to do a good heaping tablespoon of the roasted garlic. You see that? Then I'm going to do a good tablespoon, good heaping tablespoon of the umami seasoning as well. Parsley, we'll do probably 2 heaping tablespoons. Just kind of mix this in here. And I'm going to get my heat on under this. I'm going to get some Better Than Bouillon in here. I'm going to do about a half a cup to start with and see how I like the flavor of it, and then I will adjust from there and let you know if I added more. It says that it should take closer to 3/4 of a cup based on the directions, but I don't want it to be overly beefy or overly salty. So I'm going to start with half a cup, and I'll let you know from there. So I'll bring you back when we're at the next step. Okay, folks, we're back. So I brought this up to a boil, and now I've taken it back to a simmer. And I am going to let this simmer for probably a good 30 minutes or so, just so those flavors can get fully developed. I did taste test it. I ended up going with a full cup, actually, of the Better Than Bouillon. So I just really felt it needed that beefiness. So I went with a full cup of that, and I also added a couple splashes of the Worcestershire, which I did not show in the last clip. So, like I said, I'm going to let this simmer for probably a good 30 minutes, 40 minutes, and then I will bring you folks back when we're getting ready to strain it and put it in jars. Okay, folks, we're back. I just wanted to show you the setup I'm going to use for straining this. So, what I've got here is my 8-cup Pyrex measuring cup. I have a strainer that happens to fit in there perfectly, and then I'm just using a clean, this is actually a brand new tea towel, so I'll use this and then I can bleach it afterwards. So that's what I'm going to use. I'm going to strain this through here, get all the broth separate and all the onions separate, and then I'll bring you back and show you what it looks like. Okay, folks, welcome back. I realized that I was jarring these up and forgot to turn my hammer back on, so I did want to show you what they look like once they're in the jar. So that is some beautiful French onion soup, minus the onions. So I'm getting these in the canner. I am going to can these for 70 minutes. I believe it's 70 minutes. I'll have to double check. It's either 70 or 75. I believe it's 70. So I'll bring my canner up till it starts to vent. I'll let it vent for 10 minutes, put my weight on, bring it up to my 10 or 11 pounds of pressure on my Presto canner, and then I will set a timer, can it for the 70 minutes, let it come down off of pressure naturally, take the lid off, let it sit for 5 minutes, and then I'll bring the jars out and I'll bring you folks back so you can see the finished product. Hey folks, welcome back. I just wanted to bring you back and show you the finished product on our French Onion Soup Broth. So you can see these came out of the canner. I'm very happy with how they came out. The headspace is beautiful. There is, you know, some herbs and stuff that are still in there. I don't know if you can see that if you look at it that way. Because I didn't do the consommé process, which it's called an egg white raft, and essentially you cool your soup down, then you take egg whites and you beat them into the soup, then you bring your soup back up to a simmer or a boil, I can't remember for sure, and basically the egg whites cook, and the egg whites, when they cook, pull all of the sediment or particulates or anything that's in the soup into them, and then you skim the egg whites off and you end up with what's called a consommé, which is a very clear broth. I did not do that process because I didn't feel it necessary for us. If you want this to be an even clearer broth, you certainly can look up online how to do that. There's plenty of instructions on how to make a consommé. But for us, I thought this was good. When we are going to go to use this, we will take a side of croutons and a little bit of shredded cheese. We'll put it in the microwave with the croutons and the cheese and warm it up, and it'll be just like having French onion soup, minus the onions themselves, because neither of us care for the texture of that. So, I got 4, 8, 12, 16 jars of this, and these are going to be great on our shelves. It's just another lunch option for us, which we are big fans of soup. We will eat it all year round, so we can never go wrong with extra soups on the shelf. So, I hope you folks liked this video. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe. Come back and see us soon, and as always, I hope you had a great day.